Alright gang, it's an exciting day. If you watched my last video, you probably know what I'm about to do. And if you haven't, I'm about to build a transmission. Today at work, a box that I've been waiting 3.5 months on from Finland finally arrived. It took like a week longer than expected because it got stuck in customs for a little bit. Then I had to pay the Orange Man tariffs and import fees and all the yada, whatever. But check this out. This is my new PGS gear set, dog engagement, SUPRA Yahoo R154 HD gear set. So that's pretty freaking sweet. Synchros, don't need those where we're going, baby. Look at the comparison. The old counter shaft, the new counter shaft, the old input shaft, new input shaft. The gears, everything's just beefy. Probably gonna be a little noisy, but that's okay. That's just part of owning a race car. And I've decided it's full race car. You guys hear that? That's my dog outside. There's a bunch of sirens. Hope whatever's going on, everyone's all right, but you howling? You howling at the sirens? Oh, you done now? Check that out too. Celica Supra's looking pretty good. I think tomorrow I might try and bond it, get it titled and registered so I can actually drive the thing. After the S13 front suspension, I got to do a steering rack instead of the conventional steering. Anyways, that's for another time. Let's get back to this gear set. So now I'm not sure if I'm gonna get it all done in one go. So it might be like a tomorrow I'll hop in and do more type thing. So yeah, what do I need to say about this? I have all the parts I need, and the transmission's still over there on the engine, so I'll have to take it apart again. It's just the cases put together. But for now, I think I want to build the output shaft with all the new gears. So I'm going to pull out the instructions and follow the step-by-step exactly so I don't screw anything up. Alright, so putting this together might be a little bit choppy video-wise, just because I'll be following the instructions and trying to figure it all out as I go. So bear with me on this. So the first step, it says install the third gear sprocket onto the main shaft with the needle bearing installed inside. Put some oil on the needle bearing. And they're showing some ATF, so that's what I'm gonna do. So I have the third gear needle bearing. I can tell because it fits on here properly and it fits perfectly into third gear like that. Yeah, we can see that, cool. All right, so let's just put a little bit of oil on this guy here. Like I said, I'm just gonna use this ATF. Made a little squirt bottle out of it. That way these bearings aren't dry on first use. So third gear goes on here. Just like that. Then it says to put this guy on. This is the splined bushing, they call it. And it goes on like so. That's pretty slick. And then you need to put on the factory lock ring here. And I'm actually gonna need to go get something to spread that out just a little bit and pop it on. So hold on just a second. All right, I can't find the spreaders I'm looking for, so hopefully I can make do with these regular snap ring pliers here. All right, so it started to go on, so I'll just use a screwdriver to slide it down into the groove, hopefully. All right, and then in the instructions they say make sure there's no movement. Make sure you can't slide this up and down. If there is, there's a shim. I didn't see any shims, but we are tight. So that baby ain't going nowhere. I think I do need to push it down into the groove a little better there. All right, so now it says to put the second gear bearing onto the shaft. Let's just make sure. Yep, okay. So second gear bearing says install second gear needle bearing with in the main shaft from the rear side. Remember to put some transmission oil around it to ensure lubrication. So that's easy enough. Slide that down. We'll give it some lubrication. Spin it about. That was probably way more than we needed. Perfect. Alright, and then after that it says install second gear sprocket on the main shaft. So that would be like this and like that. Okay. Next step, install 3/4 dog ring spline bushing on main shaft. So I'm gonna have to say it's probably this guy. And it looks like it slides over that, like so. I do believe it's supposed to drop all the way down to the gear. Yeah, it is. It's supposed to drop all the way down to the gear. So it's just a little tight right there. So I'm gonna use a brass hammer so it doesn't cause any damage. We'll just tap it. All right, so I got this bushing what are they calling this? Got the 3/4 gear dog ring spline bushing on the main shaft. So now we want to install, and it's a little dirty. Let me get a rag just to wipe it off. All right, so now it says install the 1/2 gear dog ring / main shaft reverse gear sprocket. And this guy goes facing this way with the inset up. So just like that. Then it says install the bushing onto the main shaft. And it's talking about one of these big guys. That's pretty tight fitting bushing. There we go. Now that it's started just going on a little easier, just had to get it on straight. Remember, if you're watching my video, I'm using a brass hammer. Use a brass hammer. Do not damage any of these parts. You'll have a bad time. So there we go. Do that. It bottomed out. See what our next step is. That was step 7. So now for step 8. We install the needle bearing on the bushing. Remember to put some transmission oil on it to ensure lubricant. So there's one very big bearing, if I remember correctly. Okay, so it's one of these guys. There's 2 of these. So we'll put that guy on. And we'll lubricate it just like they tell us to. I am not about to have another transmission failure, I'll tell you that. Follow this rule bar or step by step, lubricate. So I installed the needle bearing. Now it says we install first gear. So this guy's first gear. It's, big first gear. Let me wipe it down real quick just to make sure there's not any gabagoop on it. All right, so this one goes like this with the dogs down. That should be somewhat obvious if you're tracking, because this guy needs to engage here and engage there, just like that. So now with that guy in, there's a second bearing for this, and that's gonna be the same part number. And we will just, we'll lube this up before sliding it down and on. So this bearing is lubricated, and this one will slide into the gear from the back side. just like that. Nice fit. So now I know this next step, because it's very obvious it's the only thing you can do here. And I have a brand new pin, because if you remember from my carnage video, this sheared. So we'll get the new thrust washer holding pin, locking pin. If I can get it open, my fingers got ATF on them now. So this little guy, this little pin, and you'll just drop it right in the little pin slot. Hopefully mine will want to go in after the trouble I've had with it. I'm gonna stop it here so you guys don't watch me struggle. Alright, so I got my thrust washer locking pin in finally. I had to go grab a hand file and deburr it a little bit from my issues. But it is in. So now the next step is the new thrust washer. And this one goes with the grooves facing first gear. That way some oil can get through here and get into the bearings when needed. I already know this one's going to be a little bit of trouble after, like I mentioned many times, my previous issues. Yours will likely not be this tight, but mine still slid on, and as you can see, that pin holds the thrust washer there, and that's about as simple as that. So now the next step gets a little exciting. They don't have you press on the center support bearing. What they say to do is to heat it up no more than 120 degrees Celsius, which is 200 something Fahrenheit. I'm not really sure what the conversion is. I'm gonna have to Google it. But so here I have a brand new bearing, and this one is gonna go with the groove away from first gear, just like so. So I guess now this next step, I'll go get my temp reader and my torch, and I will give this bearing the old heat up, get some welding gloves on, and push it down in there. Alright, so I got the bearing heated up to where it slid on. It's about 240 degrees that you want to stop at. You don't want to go any hotter than 240. I didn't go that hot. It also didn't slide all the way on, so I had to tap it on just the rest of the way. But you want to go until it touches the thrust washer and then call it good. The first gear should still have a little bit of, just a tiny bit of play on that bushing, but so now at this point it tells you that your next move is installing the 3/4 gear dog ring. So that would be this guy here, and it's just gonna go right on the front. And honestly, I believe that could happen later, but we'll just do it now anyways. So now the next step is gonna be sliding or involving the center plate, because after that it says install both shafts in center plate from the front side. Obviously they must be installed together. Be careful not to harm the center plate bearings. And then it also says you'll need to install the 1-2 shift fork in the shift bar at the same time, otherwise you'll get stuck. So which one did I say? The 1-2. So when I get the center plate back up there, like I said, I have to take apart that trans. Basically what they're saying is, it sounds like they have the rods already in, but I do not at this point, but I could always put my rods back in. But they're saying you want to put this, not this guy, this guy, the big guy, this onto here before you slide it in, so that way you slide it on the rod here. So for now, like I said, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this all tonight or not, and that's because I have some other things to do. So I'm going to go do that, and then it'll either be tomorrow or tonight that I pick this up, so stay tuned. Alright, hopefully the view of this is pretty good, because this is the fun part with all the little balls and springs and all that. So this is the lowest shaft. It has the threaded hole for the 5th gear shift fork on this side of the plate. I'm gonna try and explain this the best I can, but I'm not sure how well it's gonna go. So if you notice, this gap in between here is shorter than this gap and this gap between these two holes. So it's going to take just a regular ball detent. So we're going to slide this guy in, and we're going to drop the ball detent in there, and we're going to watch it. You can see it move up and down like it's supposed to with the shaft. So we're going to go where it's dropped. Okay, and then the next one to go up and down, or to go through there, is going to be the reverse guy. This guy here. There is a little pill detent that sits in here. You can't forget that guy. So I'm gonna push this guy through, and it slides along this rod, and then right into this guy here. And there we have that. Make sure the little pill detent stays in the shaft. That's very important. And while I'm gonna do that, I guess I could kind of move you guys just a second. I'm also gonna feed, that's not the right gear. I'm also gonna feed this guy, making sure that ball doesn't fall out. This guy through here, just to make sure that's gonna be all kosher going together. All right. So now while we have those two in, if we put these guys, the little side guys, they're just regular ball, spring, ball, spring. And then if we just get these caps started, it'll add a little bit of preload tension to those balls. And that way this should actually like click into place kind of. Yep. So we got that clicking. So this guy also gets one of these clips here. So we'll snap that in. That way it can't push too far that way. All right. And this guy actually goes a lot farther. I didn't have it in the right spot. This guy clicks off these two. But, so this shaft goes on to these guys. And if you notice, there's a little detent spot here. A ball detent goes in here as well. So what I'll do here is I'll start it on this lower shaft. And then I'll put the ball detent in there until it falls into that spot. And then you could push it onto the upper one. And that guy goes into place like that now. So now, I probably just blocked your vision from what you need to see. So now we're on to the next guys. And this is where I was telling you the distance was longer. You can see that there's the pill detents. And these guys are going to drop right in to those. And it's really fun. It's a good time. Everyone enjoys this, I'm sure. So you get that guy. Well, eventually, when you finagle it enough, drops down in. And then the next rod to go will be this guy. And it also has this another little pill in it. You want to obviously make sure that doesn't fall out when you feed this through. And you might need to move this guy until the pill detent drops down where it needs to be able to get the shaft through. There we go. So make sure this pill stays in place all the way into the housing, or the middle plate here. And then this guy also gets a ball and a spring. And then we'll start that cap. That way it also has a little tension and it's not just flopping willy-nilly in there. There we go. So now the very last one, another pill type detent ball. Oh, it almost dropped in there right away. It's probably gonna come out. All right, that one dropped into place nicely, and it looks like it's recessed down. So now the last one of these is this guy, and there's no extra hoo-wah in here. So you'll feed this guy through as long as that ball allows it. And then this one just has the ball and spring from the top. Ball, spring, cap. Just like so. And then this guy gets one of these. No, that guy doesn't get it. Then over here, this guy gets one of these clips. Maybe I'll use a screwdriver instead of my fingers. Might work a little better. One clip. Then the one, hopefully you guys can see that. I didn't realize I angled you away. And then this clip. Push that on the same way. Just like that. And now all the shift rods are in place. Everything should work like it's supposed to. I forgot, and now it might be kind of a pain in the butt. But this guy, let's see, can I turn the... This guy's got to go in here still. Looks like we can still do that just fine. And actually, since I don't think those will have to come back out at all, I'm gonna go ahead and Loctite those right now. All right, I found my Loctite, so I'm gonna Loctite these. Oh, that was a lot. Perfect. Let me get it down a little lower. There we go. So Loctite that. Loctite this lower one. There you go, those ain't going nowhere. Alright, so I do believe the shift shafts are pretty much done for now. I think the only thing left to do is tighten the caps, but we could wait on that just so it's a little easier. Make sure all these move forward and back. Ow, smashed my finger a little bit. And there we have it. All the shift rods are in. I don't think anything else is missing. So now, obviously one One shift fork will go here, one shift fork will go here, and the third one will go here. So now I believe it is time that we put our counter shaft and our main shaft right up into the center plate here. And like the instructions said, like I said before I left, well, I didn't leave to you guys. Let me make sure you're in the right spot. I didn't leave to you guys probably because it was just like I turned the camera off. But the 1-2 fork should go on with the center, if I read that correct. Let me look again. So yeah, down here we have extra instruction. You need to install the 1-2 shift fork in the shift bar the same time you install the main shaft. Otherwise, you will need to take the shift bar off. So you could do it with taking the shift bar off, or you could leave it in place, it sounds like. So let's grab this 1-2. That's this guy here, the big guy with the recess for the gear here. Just like that. I think, if I remember correctly, we can get this kind of started and then put the lower one in. So let's get this guy on here. Slid onto the shift shaft. Oh, I don't need the impact shaft on right now. I don't think we need the reverse guy on. So this guy. Now I will slide this out a little bit. Forgot how this went, so bear with me if I'm being a little bit of an idiot. That's what it is. I'm just an idiot. So I put this shift fork on backwards after all that, saying it had the recess for the reverse gears and all that. So let's pull everything back out. All right, so I flipped the shift fork around the right way. I'll try and bring it in here. So like I said, it's got the little little cover guy for the reverse gear there. And I had it backwards, so the little cover was over here. So that's why the shaft went slide in place. Now you can see my bearings are all the way through. I can put this snap ring back on and everything's up in place. Okay, I'm realizing as I go, I'm gonna have to pull this clip to pull this shift rod out again to get this 3/4 fork on, because this won't come all the way off anymore because the center shaft, the counter shaft is in place. So not a big deal, but while we have it in like this, let's go ahead and put this big snap ring in place. So we don't have to worry about anything sliding out. That one's all nice and easy. This one still has it on there. Wham bam, thank you ma'am. What's the next step? So next we install the bearing retainer plate. And with that, now I'm going to install the reverse gear again. because this guy, as you see, has this, and that sits in this little groove on the reverse gear shaft thing. So we put this in here, make sure it sits down into the groove. Drop that in. Yep, there we go. That sits very nicely like that. So now I gotta find those bolts. Good thing I took this apart 3.5 months ago. Well, that wasn't too bad. They're actually just still right here. So they seem to have just not mentioned putting the bolts into that guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do that now, because I don't see why you wouldn't. Get that bolt started. But I am gonna Loctite these. Just a little dab. Little dab. Sorry if you guys are rocking back and forth. Hopefully you don't get motion sick watching this. I just don't have the best equipment here, and I figure this is looking better than when I tore it apart, so. Alright, I should be good to tighten. Make sure they all run in. We're just gonna pretend like that one went in smooth. Alright, those are torqued to DeWalt spec. Alright, this thing is coming together, guys. It's really not too far now at this point. Of course, now it's the, in my opinion, the worst part. I feel like this side of the center plate's the worst. Maybe it's just me, but. Alright, so now we have this locking ball, which will go into a hole on the counter shaft. So we'll need to spin the counter shaft. There's the hole. We'll drop that right into place like that, per the instructions. And then install the new thrust washer here so that it locks the ball, they say. So that looks like it's just this guy, like that. So now it says install the countershaft 5th gear bearing bushing. Remember to heat it well before installing to confirm it goes into place without needing any force. So I'm not sure which one of these it is, but it's gonna be one of these guys. Okay, so I read a little bit ahead. So this guy does go on first. So you heat it up until it slides on there, and then this guy will go on after. That's why it has this hole to line up with that guy. So let me get some heat onto this and then slide it on, hopefully. We'll see how that goes. All right, that slid on very easily. I got it right to 240. I got to 240 quick. So heads up on that if you're doing this yourself. So that guy is on. That went on very nicely with that heat, actually. Install the oil bushing on the counter shaft. So that obviously doesn't need to line up perfectly with the hole. It's gonna oil into this bushing and into there. Got some nasty glove stuff melted onto there, so I'm just gonna clean this off. All right, I got the nasty all cleaned off that bushing, so I'll slide this guy back on. And then next is this other bushing. And it says we gotta do the same thing to heat it on and then slide it. It looks like it will only partially, yeah, so it should go just right on and then have some of these guys showing on the end here. So let me heat this up and we'll do all that again. All right, hot metal coming through. Push it on, we'll let it cool off, and then I'll wipe it off again, just like the other one. So now we install 5th gear countershaft needle bearing. And just like all the others, get a little bit of lube on it, a little bit of transmission oil. I'm sure that's plenty, I'm just overdoing it. Then, next step, install the 5th gear sprocket onto the countershaft. And the 5th gear sprocket appears to be this guy. And it should slide right over that bearing nicely. Just like so. And then we install, it's the same bearing part number, and it goes on the outside here. So we'll get it set right there. Give it a little bit of lube run on the sides. Then we'll slide that right on in as well. Now, next step, install 5th gear dog ring and shift fork as a package. Install 5th gear dog ring and shift fork as package. Boom, just as easy as they say. Nope, I'll have to pull this gear, so that's not a big deal, it just slides on. So yeah, this guy goes on with the tall end facing the bearing. Okay, so it's got to slide onto these splines, which is going to be a little tough. Alright, so it was just a little hard to start. Once I got it started, it slid right on. It's not a big deal. So we'll put this all back how I had it. 5th gear goes on, the bearings all in place. This dog ring and shift fork together, just like that. I'll throw this guy on, but I still need to put that shift fork bolt back in. Put a fresh little dab Loctite on there. Run it in by hand. Now I will use a ratchet with my hand all the way. It's not a very big screw. So just get it tight, and I'm going to tack that anyways. So now we can put this nut on to hold this guy in. And we're going to put thread locker on. We're going to put this nut. We're going to tighten it on down with this guy. And then it's got a little flat part here. And we just want to smash it down, smash the nut down onto it. Get that little piece of fuzz out. And that way we know the nut won't run itself off because it's flattened there. Just like so. Now the next step is that we are going to slide this collar on. Like that. And then we install the bearing. That's this guy. And so we got to heat this guy up just like all the other things. So let me heat it up and I'll slide it on and we'll go from there. Yeah. Seems that is the case. Good little game of find this clip I just sent into the stratosphere. All right, that's clipped on. All right, so now we just need to put the speedometer holder ring clip here. Where'd my little brass hammer? All right, so then we put the little ball for the speedometer guy right there, just like so. Then we install our speedo gear. And it has a little, let me pull this off and show you. It has this little guy here, and that's where the ball rides, obviously. I'm also gonna wipe this off before I put it back on because it felt a little off. All right, so now this guy, line up the groove with the ball, just like that. And then we have one more snap ring. And it'll snap on just like that. This part I've already kind of messed around with. There is this little ring that comes with the kit, and it slides on to the input shaft here. And this guy goes on there. And I almost used Loctite instead of ATF. And we'll just give her a little lubing too. Just like so. And that space is important because it'll put this guy in the right spot. Otherwise it'll be too far inward and it won't ride on this gear correctly. So, oh, that bearing came off. Now I need to take my input shaft bearing and put it on here, and they tell you to heat it up just like the other stuff. You obviously want to make sure this is facing the correct way, which, let me just confirm real quick, is groove up. So let me clean this off, heat it up, and I'll slide it right on. All right, now will you slide on? Yep, slid right on. Perfect. Beautiful. So now I gotta put this lock ring on, and it's gonna be a hot bearing, so we don't want to touch that. All right, so that's there. We can put this on. They also say you could just put this on after the casing is on. Just like so. All right, I think next I need to get this bearing off my, of my old counter shaft and then just transfer it onto the new one. And it might have said something about it. I might have missed a step. I'm obviously pretty good at that. I think that needs pressed off, which isn't very fun. Not very fun at all. Some of you may be saying, hey, you forgot something. And to that I say, you are right. I totally forgot to put this guy on. So let me get this clip off. All right, hopefully I don't send this pin into, or this clip into oblivion, right, as I'm basically done. Cool, fell right onto the plate here. All right, so let's get this guy slid. I need to loosen this guy up a little bit. Be able to slide this guy over. Just enough to get, where did I put it? Where did I put that freaking shit? Oh, that's right. Just enough to get this guy here. And then this guy back into place here. Like so. We'll put this clip back on. Well, let's make sure we're in the right spot here. That appears to be right. Let me just start a bolt in here. So if we go forward, we lock in. And if we go backwards, we lock in there. Yep, that is correct. All right, so let me put this clip back on. Please don't go flying. Please don't go flying. All right. That is in. We'll snug this guy back down a little bit. And then let's just go ahead and Loctite these and put these in while I'm thinking about it. That was a lot of Loctite. Not a problem. And same with this guy. Pull this out so I can Loctite it. Then grab the ratchet. Tighten them down. Just like so. That is looking good. All right, let me press the bearing off this counter shaft and then we'll pop it on the new counter shaft. Well, welcome back. New day. Welcome back me, I guess. Same video for you. I got the transmission all done up. All the bearings are in. Everything's ready to go. It's ready to be closed up, except I want to tack weld these like they recommend if you're going to drive it hard. I'm going to drive it hard. So I got those just ground down. Just enough for a little tack. I'm just going to take the TIG. I don't even think I'm going to add filler because it's not like there's a lot of force against it. You just don't want them spinning out. I got the SUPRA titled and insured today, so I've been driving that around. Awesome car. Takes me back. So yeah, let me get these tacked real quick. And then I'm going to close up this case and put it in. Alright, let's see if it'll just melt together nice and easy. Am I blocking you guys? Probably so. And there we go. Now we just have 3 little tacks. Should be easy enough to grind off if I ever have to take it apart. Yeah, let me put the welder away. Alright, I got the case halves on and sealed, the front cover on and sealed. I didn't record that just because I get a little stressy about it. So I just whipped it together. It's pretty simple, really. Got the detent balls in, I got everything going, and doing a little shift test. Obviously the dogs have to line up. So there's first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and reverse. A little bit of a pain in the butt because, like I said, with the dog engagement, the dogs got to all line up for it. So when it's not spinning, it's pretty difficult, but it goes into all the gears. I have confirmed, so transmission is built. My second time building an R154, my first time building a dog box. Hopefully it stays together. So now I just get to put the bell housing on, take the shifter back off, put it on the back of the motor, and put everything in. But I think I'm gonna call it good for this video. I'll do all that in another video, starting right now. But just since this was one Stupid idiot. Since this was one separate project, basically, building the trans, I'm going to have this as one video, so if anyone's building the PGS R154, they could come watch this. But, so yeah, for now, I'm going to use my other hand since I just got sealing all over it. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to. Yeah, see you guys on the next one.